Well, okay. Hello and welcome to DDOCast. Apparently, the music is not playing correctly for some reason. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have Cordovan.
Hello, thank you very much for being here. Just for those who don't know, I am the community manager for Dungeons and Dragons Online, officially hired by Turbine Incorporated WB Games. So all my opinions are completely biased, and I love the game.
It's true. Did you have a tweet? You had a tweet this week that was something along the lines of,
Yeah.
"Is it wrong for you to want to leave work early to go play the game that you're working on?"
Yeah, it's true. It would be nice if I could just sort of take an afternoon off to farm Trials of the Archons, but the reality was I actually had things I had to do this week. And so I was sitting there at work going, man, all these people are running this quest and getting named items except for me. And so I had to do something about that.
Yeah, it's the way it works
Yeah.
sometimes. Let's see. This week's screenshot, which I wrote down, is Urlock putting on his thinking cap in the 232nd screenshot of the week. And I assure you that this has no actual. This is a complete coincidence that we're doing a show about Helms the
Yeah.
same week that this screenshot is here. But there you go. We like to talk about Dungeons and Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Google, not through Google Plus, through Twitch. Now I stopped using Google Plus, YouTube, the DDO forums, and our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber the awesome podcast hosting network. Shows are usually available within a few days of recording, and the next show will probably be next Sunday around 2 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be reviewing Update 27 and Update 26. Since we haven't reviewed Update 26 yet, and 27 and 26 were kind of originally going to be the same update and then got split. So we're going to review them together. And you can stay updated by following us on social media pages or our website ddocast.com with our calendar. Twitter at DDOcast is probably the best one to follow us on. This is going to be great. I'm stumbling all over the place. I love it.
So I've actually been trying to think, though, ever since that screenshot came in, where do you get the thinking cap? That's from Daily Dice, is that right?
I'm not sure.
I needed to look that up and I forgot, but because I know it's not in the store per se, and I don't think you can get it as an end reward, so I think it's Daily Dice.
I don't think it's an item, but I'm not positive on that.
Well, it's a cosmetic helmet slot. It's called the thinking cap, is what it's called. That's what the screenshot of the week is a cosmetic helmet slot. But I couldn't remember where it actually came from. I mean, you would think it might be from Inspired Quarter, but I don't think so. I think it's from the Gold Roll on Daily Dice.
I can't even think of a helm that comes out of that. I don't think there's a helm in that quest.
Yeah.
In that series, but it's a fun little thing. So on the podcast this week, we've got some Update 27 launched this week. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then our roundtable discussion, we're going to talk about hats, helms, headgear, basically things that go in your head slot. And people have
No
been
comments,
asking.
Samus.
A lot of people have been asking about gearing and stuff along that. And instead of doing it, people have been kind of asking for, what do I gear for this or that, or like how to gear up certain things. Instead of doing that, I decided we're going to go through specific slots and just kind of say these are some hats that we like or some pieces that we like in that slot, and we'll kind of do this occasionally, going through the different slots. And today we're going to start with helms, headgear, hats, that kind of stuff.
Stuff you put on your noggin.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And it includes, it's not just hats and helmets. There's also masks and stuff like that. But we're going to kind of break it down into a couple different groupings. And first, we're just going to start with talking about what are some of our favorite helms to use. Some things that we tend to use a lot. Maybe you look across your stable of characters, and what are some things that you often find on your head?
Pretty much, I think any conversation needs to start with Minos Legans, right? Because it is historically probably the singularly most important piece of headgear you can get on your character. And what is Minos Legans? It's basically a helmet that offers you 20 hit points, but it also gives you heavy fortification. And for many years, it was half of the ways to get heavy fortification. There was a way you could get it at minimum level 9 as well, but but not on your helmet slot. But generally, as soon as you could get it, which is, if I recall, minimum level 11, right? Minimum
Yep.
level 11? That you could, it was basically the thing that everyone got. As soon as you could put it on, you did, because it would give you fortification. 100% used to be called heavy fortification. What that does is when a monster tries to get a sneak attack or critical hit on you, there is a 100% chance that a critical hit or sneak attack is negated, and the damage is instead rolled normally. So in other words, it prevents most sneak attacks. I say most because some mobs do have ways to bypass fortification, so that can get under 100%, depending on the mob you're fighting. But for a lot of your general mobs, particularly in the heroic levels, it's going to prevent you from getting critically hit. And that will keep you alive in many, many ways. The way to get Minos Legans is also fairly easy. You do need to have the Orchard of the Macabre, be able to go to the Orchard of the Macabre outdoor wilderness area, and then you'll collect 20 tattered tapestries, just basically by farming rares. Really doesn't take too long, maybe a longish afternoon or a couple of gameplay sessions, and you'll have what you need.
They're also not bound, so you can buy them on the item
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, but especially if you're a new player or whatever, maybe you don't have the money for it. So it's a pretty easy thing to get, though. And because of the fact it was so powerful, so important to have on any character, because any character needs to not be critically hit if possible, and the fact that it was fairly easy to get made it the item slot for years and years and years for the head slot, to the point that actually some of the development team struggled. Our loot guys struggled because it's like, well, how do I make a helmet item that actually can compete if everybody, quote, is wearing Minos Legans? So they did. One of the ways that they did that in particular was to move fortification even into a random item property, along with, say, putting it on a bunch of other named items. So it's maybe not quite the one item that it used to be, but it is still an item that really just about every character is going to want to have in their backpack, just because it's really, really useful.
It's a funny item, not just because of how good it is and how prominent it was for many years, but its history is kind of funny when you look at it. It came out with Orchard of Macabre, which was the pack, I believe, after Giant Hold, which is where heavy fortification really started to kick in, because if you got critically hit by an ogre at the time, you pretty much got squished. They'd bop you on the head and you'd go down. And I believe this was also I think this was before we got rid of the XP penalty for dying.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
So it became much more of a need to have heavy fortification, particularly in that quest, and it wasn't easy to get. You could find moderate or light fortification on a few items, but at the time, when this came out, basically this was an option, and the necklace from Black Anvil Mines were pretty much your only options, was one you referenced earlier. And then everyone was wearing this helmet, and this was before you could turn your helmet off. So
yeah, right.
Everyone was wearing
you could always turn your helmet off.
Or you could?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But still, it was the one that
everyone was wearing it.
Yeah, frankly, it also doesn't hurt that it's pretty cool looking. So that was another reason a lot of people tended to have it displayed. Yeah.
There was a time where you couldn't turn your helmet off, I thought.
I don't think so.
No, maybe not. Well, in any case, so you had this helm that was rather ubiquitous, and as you said, it created a lot of problems for creating loot. There was also, at one point, this helm got up when there was a big loot pass. It got updated, and now the diamond of the plus 20 vitality hit points is now a diamond of vitality, which it's already slotted in a colorless slot on the helm, which kind of makes it useful again because it's one of the few places you can actually get one of those. The other one being in the Crucible, in the underwater chest, which is
Not nearly as easy.
Yeah, I was actually a little disappointed by one that it only appeared in one place, two it appeared in that place, and three that it wasn't a random loot gen with 5, 10, 15, 20 on it. But
You
it was
know, so
interesting
so
case
the
study
other, I
on how
mean, I
things
guess,
change though.
one thing about the Minos Legans and the reason it was turned into an augment slot is because even when we came out with other ways to get heavy fortification, now known as fortification 100%, people were still wearing Minos Legans because of that vitality bonus. And so it was like, well, you still didn't open up that slot for other players, for characters, because everyone wanted those 20 hit points. Now, there are other ways you can get, that, but it is, one of the easiest ways, again, to get those 20 hit points. So,
And
um,
to get the augment, so
yeah, yeah. And so it was turned into an augment. And if that's something you want, you just need a jeweler's toolkit. Either you can find them in random loot sometimes. They're pretty rare, but you can get in daily dice, moderately common, and you can buy it in the DDO store pretty cheap if you want to.
and you can find them on the auction house occasionally as well.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so there's really, when we talk about the history of headgear in DDO, there's really a post Minos Legans and pre Minos Legans sort of era, right?
Yeah.
But I thought it might be worth. I don't know quite how you want to do this. Whether you'd like
Well, let's
to,
go through some more favorite
yeah,
items.
favorites. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
let's stay
yeah.
on the favorites track.
Mhm.
So some things that I put down for me, shroud helms. Oftentimes they were mineral 2 helms for my casters, kind of to replace the Minos Legions, because that helm was 100% fortification and 20 hit points. If you put hit points on a shroud helm, then you got what was it, 10, 25, 40 some odd. Was it 5, 10, 15, or 10, 15, 20? I don't remember. But you can put extra hit points on it, and you get the fortification, and you'd get some other stuff on it, like a stone skin clicky, and so it was kind of an upgrade. And those, my cleric still wears that, even at level 28.
Oh wow, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, named Helms tended not to be overly enticing to him as a cleric. He has an epic deific diadem now, which we'll talk about later, but which kind of fits into that slot. But part of it was for the hit points, because those hit points aren't really available in other places generally. Some epic stuff that I tend to use, the Purple Dragon Helm from Evening Star Accommodations. It's 5 PDK comms, and you get what was it, +7 Constitution, +2 Insightful Strength, and Intimidate 15, which is pretty darn good, and it's part of a set if you want that. And then Dragon Helmets, I've used those a lot. You can still see most of my characters as they're leveling up through epics, generally wearing, if they're melee, they're generally wearing a dragon helm. And then another one I just wanted to throw in here was the Royal Guard Mask, which comes out of, I think, Golafan.
Yes, the end chest of Bring Me the Head of Golafan.
Yep.
Or through the mail, apparently, if it's your birthday. I actually was on Thelanis on Friday, and Friday happened to be my birthday. And someone just sent me a Royal Guard mask in the mail because it's unbound. And I was like, yes, because I had never had one of those, particularly on Thelanis. So now I got the Royal Guard mask. And why is that awesome? Because if you don't have teleport, you can't cast teleport, you don't have UMD for teleport, it gets you teleport. And that makes life a lot easier.
It's convenient, unless it fails to teleport.
Yeah, but that's just fun.
There's actually a way to deal with that without dying, even if you can't teleport. If you feather fall towards the northeast, you end up kind of in this invisible tube, falling down towards the market. And if you reach the end of it, you die. But if you kind of try and fly towards the northeast corner of it, you can squeak out without dying.
Yeah.
Pro tip. So, do you have any other favorite helms that you seem to run into and use a lot?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I would say for low-level characters, and again, partially this is a cosmetic reason, but the big top is a really cool one. It's a top hat. It doesn't get you too much. It's just UMD +1, Otto's Resistible Dance, which isn't necessarily all that effective. but it is a really cool looking helmet. It's a top hat, and so I know quite a few of my characters will pick that just to make a cosmetic out of it. So that's something that I would keep in mind. For clerics in particular, if you like the Lord's March chain, I would look at Taraz's Sight. It gives you a nice wisdom bonus of +5 or +6. Also gives you a Detect Secret Doors clicky, which, again, for clerics can be or healer types can be very, very useful. And then also, if you upgrade it, you'll get True Seeing, which will bypass, say, displacement and blur on mobs. So True Seeing can be a very useful way to do it. The other thing is if you do have several items from that Lord's March chain, you can get the Wrath of Soric Hell set, which gives you a +40 bonus to your universal spell power, which, helps really any caster, but I found clerics to be pretty nice. And also a basic +2 artifact bonus to attack and damage rolls, which is something, again, I found clerics often are maybe a little bit behind the curve on. So I've often used Taraz's Sight and upgraded it to Taraz's Perfect Sight on my characters. Is it best in slot? Well, no, but situationally for my characters, it's often been quite a nice one to have. And also, it's like I say, it's fairly easy to get, so it's one of those things that I'll often do. I would say if you, again, this is partially cosmetic, although it's not terrible, and that would be Renard's Elegant Hat. You can get that from Wrath of Flame. It is a minimum level 18 item, and the reason it's cosmetically cool is it's feather in your cap. It's a good way to get that one.
It's like a musketeer hat.
Yeah. It has a whirlwind absorption of 25 charges, and it recharges per rest 10. So, you may be a little behind the curve, but still, it absorbs air elemental knockdown. Less of an issue nowadays than it used to be, but certainly when it used to be, it was very, very useful. It also gives you a chance to put both feather falling and underwater action on one item, so it can perhaps save an inventory slot for you and be something that you can quick switch into situationally when you need underwater action or feather falling, or you're fighting a bunch of air elementals. So I would give a shout out to Renard's Elegant Hat there as well. The other thing I guess I'd mention is that Crystal Cove offers some really nice helmets or hat slots that
they're customizable.
Yeah, they're very customizable. They help you particularly when you're in Crystal Cove because they can give you things like additional chance to get the ingredients and that sort of thing there. But then it is, like I say, customizable, so you can do all sorts of different kinds of things that you want to put on it. And I guess it's maybe a little, it would take a little while to go through all that sort of thing. But you can just look it up in the item box of Crystal Cove when it's here and see what kind of stuff you can put on it, and it's a pretty good one there.
Isn't there an ability for those that makes the kobolds run faster too? If they're near you?
I believe so. Yeah,
do you know if that works outside of the cove and the other kobold challenges?
I don't know 100% sure, but I'm going to guess yes. Because I'm guessing that the basically the underlying tech is probably very, very similar. So, there you go.
Some other helms that I've found to be of use at times. The Mask of Comedy out of Big Top, which has Devotion 42 at level 5, which is a pretty good bonus. It also has a Good Hope clicky, which is a pretty rare clicky in and of itself. And it can help. It can either give you +2 bonus to like everything, or you can use it to dispel a Crushing Despair, which is the only way you can get rid of Crushing Despair.
Yeah. I was actually going to bring that one up when we were maybe going by level or something like that. But yeah, Good Hope is a really nice clicky to have because it gives you a +2 morale bonus to attacks, saves, skills, and weapon damage. So it's just kind of a one size. It's especially I found it's like I just need a couple more points to maybe for a rogue to find a trap or something like that. Good Hope is a great way to just sort of give yourself a little last minute boost.
And you can use that clicky before a bard could actually cast the spell, which is pretty nice. Well, let's go a little bit more by level and some stuff. Because I know you had some notes on some of that stuff.
Well, I just thought, especially because if we want to talk to, say, new players, people who haven't done many lives and farmed all sorts of head slots, they're like, well, okay, that's great that I can get Minos Legans at level 11, but what do I do until level 11, or that sort of thing. So, and I would also put a caveat that if you really don't have any named items, just sort of find what you can get. If you are invested in Caneth crafting as well, that might be another option for you to look into the various things that you can put on a helmet there as well. But I think we're really focusing on named items here. So when you're first starting off, you're sitting around Korthos, what do you get? If you don't have a Crystal Cove helmet, a couple of things that might be worth taking a look at would be if your intelligence type, puzzle cap gives you a +2 bonus, no minimum levels. That's not a terrible way to get started. The Brazza's hat, which is in the what's the name? When there's smoke, what's the name of that wilderness area now? It's skipping my brain.
Cerulean Hills.
Yeah, Cerulean Hills. That's not terrible because it gives you a 2% dodge bonus, which can be a little nice for very low level items. Again, the big top is level 5.
Shog's helm, if you want to use Intimidate, it's a +7 skill bonus at level 3, which is really good. It's better than what you can find on random loot gen.
Yep. And if you really just have nothing, like, I don't know. I'm just running through Korthos for the very first time. There's a couple options for you. Garzad's helm gives you DR1, which isn't 1 point of damage, right? But at very low level, hey, anything helps. The other thing that might be worth keeping an eye on, and this is something you'll probably run into right away, is the Crypt of Gerard Dryden. It's got the Battle Worn helm, which is concentration +3, meh, unless you're a caster. But it does have fortification 25%, which will help until you get some kind of higher level fortification item as well. So for that very, very low end game, those might be a couple of things to take a look at. Otherwise, if we move into, say, the kind of mid-single digits, you do have a couple of items as well. Some of this is very situational, based on sort of what your particular character build is. Mask of Comedy, again, that comes from under the big top, probably the one you're going to want to get for that Good Hope clicky. But it also does help out healers a little bit because it has Devotion +42. The Rusted Crown, which is from the Tide turns, can be upgraded. And that's not entirely terrible, although, like I say, for a lot of folks, they're going to get done with it fairly quickly. But once you upgrade it, you'll get Spell Resistance 15, which at level 5 is pretty good. And another thing to keep in mind is that if you use any Dragon Marks and you upgrade Chimera, the Helmet to Chimera's Crown, you'll get a Minor Lesser Dragon Mark enchantment, which will give you an additional use of your Lesser Dragon Marks after your rest. So that can be, particularly at low level, kind of a not terrible thing to do as well. Cosmetically, one of our most recent and most popular items is that
we're going to talk about cosmetics later.
Oh, okay. Well, Mushroom Cap still probably should go in there because it does have a Good Luck +1. Now, granted, if you have the Voice of the Master, you're already getting Good Luck +1, but it's not terrible. It does have Death Block 2 on it, which at minimum level 7 isn't terrible. It does make you immune to magical effects for instant death, so you are going to want a Death Block item, and this might be a good way to do that. Plus, it also gives you 10 hit points at level 7, which isn't terrible. I would say the Circlet of Persuasion, which is just an unbound, so you probably just get it from the auction house or something. It is any level 7 to 12 chest, so you can't really farm for it other than just running, but you'll find it fairly regularly. And what that'll do is give you a +3 competency bonus to all charisma-based skills.
Including UMD.
So, yeah, including UMD, which is probably the most popular reason to get it. But I would also say, like, if you're a cleric that is trying to be turned undead spec, that will help out.
Well, it's a skill. Those are skills, not turning.
But I thought, oh yeah, you're right. I thought charisma based. I thought turning undead counted though. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think so. There's other things that do that, but I don't think that really counts.
Okay. Okay. Well, UMD is probably the biggest reason, although any charisma-based skill will also help you out there. So,
we should give a little bit of a shout-out to the Nightforged Darkhelm out of Relic of the Starving Past, or BAM, Blackhaville Mines, just because it has a protection from evil clicky, which prevents you from getting commanded, which can be really useful at certain levels. You can get that on wands and stuff, but not everyone can use UMD. So that's a good choice as well.
I would also shout out, this is again very situational. Could you guess I play a lot of clerics? But level 7, Into the Deep, which is in the Red Fens, the last quest in the Red Fens, you can get the Sacred Helm. That'll give you Eternal Faith, which will help out your turn undead. It will also give you Death Block, and it'll give you a 48 plus 48 bonus to your healing spell power. So if you are a healer, that might be something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, and then I think when you get to level 11, we already talked about the Minos Legends, but there's actually a list of helms that you can select out of Necropolis, which have a couple different choices in there. The Seraphim will help you with those undead turning and give you some devotion. There's Totemic Lavalier, which has 100 spell points on it, plus 6 to intelligence and charisma, which is an option. So there's some stuff in there that you can also get.
But I think especially when you do hit level 11, unless you are looking for something specifically for your build or class, you're probably going to want to go with Minos Legends.
Probably.
So, yeah, it's
kind of the best one you're going to find.
Yep. I would say just something to, if you are farming tapestries as well, you might want to pick up another 20 and pick up the Muffled Veneer if you are a rogue or a trap guy, because it'll give you search plus 10. Now, that's less of a big deal nowadays because you can get search plus 10 in quite a few places, including crafting. But if you don't have crafting or you're a newer player, it's a good way to just get search plus 10. And it's a pretty easy way to get that. It also gives you an augment slot and move silent and hide bonus. But particularly, I think it's something you're going to want to switch into when it comes time to find a trap. So,
I'd say too, when you get into the higher levels, if maybe you're newer to the game or you're running an iconic, you don't have a lot of stuff. The Alchemist Crown, again for healers, is pretty good. Has devotion and radiance plus 72 and wisdom 6, which is a good choice. There's other stuff up here.
Again, in the new adventure pack, there's one called Halcyona. It is a minimum level 13, gives you wisdom plus 6, 66 equipment bonus to positive healing spell power. It saves 5% on the spell point cost of your spells, which is very useful. Healing lore, which increases your chance to critically hit with healing. It gives you a basic heal bonus and an augment slot. Now that's minimum level 13. End chest in the Archon's Trial, Halcyona. And like I say, it's a brand new item, again, for healers, although casters in general might get some use out of it. It's something to keep in mind.
Yep. Once you get into epic levels, you kind of notice a theme here. We're picking out a lot of things, either have a special clicky or have spell power. Because that frees up your weapon slot for something else. Particularly for healing devotion stuff, can be really helpful for, say, a druid that might be doing melee. So you want to have more of a melee weapon in your hand. You don't want to waste your weapon slot with something that's just for healing. Or maybe you want to be more casting stuff. And you can kind of get extra spell power stuff in there. So you can kind of see a bit of a theme going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're playing an iconic, I would also, this is back to heroic a little bit, but decision's not terrible. It gives you greater fire resist. And that's, if you're an iconic guy, you may well get that one as well. Let's see. Now we're basically skipping. Actually, I did just want to go back just briefly to a couple more heroic items. The Dark Storm Helm is in Servants of the Overlord. And it's in the end chest, the lock chest there. The reason, I mean, it gives you situationally a few things, but the big reason why a lot of characters might want it is because it has a clicky of Call Lightning Storm, one charge. And so, particularly if you are heading into a tougher battle or a battle with a lot of mobs or something like that, and you can't call Lightning Storm, it's a good way to just sort of swap into it, call that lightning storm. It lasts for I think 45-ish seconds, 50 seconds,
Something like
something
that.
like that.
It lasts for a
And
while.
yeah, and it'll help basically do damage against mobs with lightning storm. So I actually have several characters that I'll just before a big fight when people are buffing up on that, I'll just pop it on, call the lightning storm, and then as we head into battle, I'm just doing some extra damage there.
It's also good for Pale Masters because it has a lot of nullification, negative energy stuff on it.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so now we're into the epic level. I would say the epic Dark Storm Helm, if you choose to do that, has a clicky at 3 clickies, but that's minimum level 20. So,
Which I think is, I mean, it's only like 2 levels higher.
yeah,
The issue, or 3 levels higher, Dark Storm Helm 17. The issue is you got to find all the pieces because it's an older style one, which is a little harder to do.
yeah. It may not be worth going through that effort if you can already just get clicky there for the situational use there.
Yeah, some of that stuff can be kind of hard to use. If you're using Dragon Marks, the Epic Chimera's Crown can be really useful because you get more uses of Dragon Marks, which is kind of nice. See, other stuff that's...
You had mentioned the purple dragon helm,
Yep.
but I don't know if we talked about why. One of the big things for it is, one, it's fairly easy to get because you can get it from Evening Star
PDK comms.
Yeah, PDK commendations. Constitution +7 and Insightful Strength +2. Along with, if you choose to go with a set bonus, you'll get a Knight's Loyalty, which is a +3 artifact bonus to both 2-hit and damage, along with natural armor, but particularly that 2-hit and damage. So anyone that needs more hit points, it's a fairly easy way to get that Con +7 if you don't have it yet. And Insightful Strength +2 is useful for many, many different classes.
Yeah, when you get into the epic level, this is where I kind of start ending up on Dragon Helms a lot because it's kind of, there's a lot of different options with what you can do with Dragon Helms. They set bonus well with the Dragon Armors. And, there's not, the level 20 Helms, a lot of times you have to find the Scroll Seal Shard thing, which can be kind of problematic, which is why the PDK Helm is really good because it's easy to get at level 20. It's got some great stuff on it. And
It's useful for a wide range of people.
Yeah, it can get you to the next thing until you have something that you want to slot in there.
Yeah.
And then we start kind of getting towards more best in slot stuff when you get kind of higher up at levels. But do want to give a shout out to the Epic Elemental Victory out of Temple of Them to Evil, which people like cosmetically. But also it gives a lot of absorption for acid, fire, cold, and electric, 24% each. So that can be a nice little thing to slot in.
If at level 24 from Prove Your Worth on the Epic side, you can get the Plundered Pirate Hat. That's Charisma +8, Insightful Charisma +3. So for many people, that'll be basically a Charisma 11 for you. True Seeing, a blue augment slot that also has fortification 100% in it, slotted, and a colorless augment slot for whatever it is you want to put, like that Diamond of Vitality 20. So you could very well, in one slot there, particularly if you are UMD or a charisma-based person, I mean, you'll get a lot of charisma, you'll get True Seeing, you'll get fortification, and you could give yourself, say, an extra 20 hit points or something like that. And that can just sit on your character for actually quite a while.
Yeah, it's a really good choice.
So, yeah.
So let's talk about some of the higher level stuff, and we're getting kind of more into best in slot kind of stuff here. And I think you'll notice that there's going to be a lot of Orchard and some of the new stuff from Update 27, Trials of Archons, because that's the newer stuff, and we're talking about best in slot, and there's kind of a little creep that generally happens. The Epic Deific Diadem is great for particularly DC casters, but it's got +11 for what is it? Charisma? Is it Charisma, Wisdom, and Intelligence?
Yes.
I think it is. So if you're a caster, Boom, there you go, plus 11. Plus it has the deific focus, which whenever you cast a spell, you get a +1 to DCs with that spell, and that stacks twice. So you can get an extra 2 there. And something that's really neat with that, say maybe you're in a Pale Master Necro guy. You know, your Pale Master R, I believe, is Necro. So that will, every tick of that will gives you basically +2 for all your DCs against Necromancy, just by running the Aura, so that can be really great. It also has Lesser Heighten Clicky, which reduces the cost of using that meta magic for a few short seconds.
As a matter of, it's actually a little bit even more than that. It negates the extra mana cost for heightened spell meta magic while it's active. So if you are a heightened spell meta magic user, this can be useful. Granted, it's only 20 seconds at a time, but it can be a great way to sort of, up that immediate power of your spells without an extra mana cost. And it is a five charge clicky, so not terrible there.
It also has 2 slots that you have to upgrade for those, but that's not too difficult. By the time you get it, you'll probably have enough to upgrade.
I will say, that's the one sort of asterisk on this item, though, is it for those who are not heavy raiders, you're going to struggle getting this one because it's in the Mark of Death, which is not, for some folks, not exactly the easiest raid in the world. Now, raiders are going to laugh at that, but trust me, if you're not a raider, you're going to be very intimidated by trying to farm the Mark of Death for an item. So
it's still getting run though. So if you're looking for it, you can still group up with some folks that are running it, and you might get lucky, and you can get up to those 20 completions. Usually, if a group starts to run Mark of Death, they're going to run 3 or 4 at a time, at least, just because it's with raid bypass timers and the time it takes to get a group together. It's a pretty quick raid, so get a couple.
Remember Minos Legans?
Epic Minos Legions.
Yeah, Epic Minos Legions is also pretty awesome. So, again, gives you even more vitality, a little bit more fortification. If you're lucky enough to find a mythic version of it, you'll also get even more bonus, like Insightful Con 3, Sheltering 30, which is +30 bonus to PRR and MRR, and just a whole bunch of stuff.
And some slots. Yeah, it's one of the, it's best in the slot in Heroic, and it's one of the best in slots you can find for Epic.
In Epic, it's a little harder to get because it's rather than say through Tapestries or Epic Tapestries, you'll get it from Fleshmaker's Laboratory.
The Epic version.
Yeah. So,
but it is bound to account. So if you pull it on a different character, you can swap it to another character. Whereas the Minos Legends, I think, is bound to character when you acquire it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's you have a little bit of options there. You can pass it around. I want to mention the Muffled Veneer, and the reason why I want to bring that up is it has Assassination. I think the Epic version has +2 to Assassination. The Mythic version has +4. And yeah, again, it's gonna be a little harder to get. You have to get it out of Epic Ghost of Perdition. The Mythic version obviously is going to drop a lot less, but +4 to your Assassinations is pretty stinking awesome. Plus, it's going to help you move silently and hide. It's got Spot on it. A little extra reflex save,
which is currently the highest available in the game. Right? I think I'm right about that. You don't go to above 20 right now. Yeah.
For skills, no, +20 is as high as it goes. And it wouldn't really surprise me if that's as high as it, even at level 30. It might kind of bottom out or top out at 20, and then you'll see various... We're kind of already seeing like different ways to get skill bonuses, different channels, as it were. We might see them go a little higher, but
we might.
20 is pretty much the cap now, and it's been that way for a while. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's always kind of a balance when you're adding loot of how to kind of add. How do you want to add the skills without really breaking the curve, as it were? But +20 is great. It's about as high as you can get. Let's see. Of course, we want to mention the epic level Halcyona, which is, again, a really great healing item. 150 devotion, 10 healing lore, so +20% to critical hit with heals. this is kind of one of those things they're saying. It's a +2 insightful bonus to the heal skill. So that will stack with your normal, that +20 heal if you can find it. Quality wisdom +2, which is a new way of getting wisdom, so that's going to stack with pretty much anything else that's not quality. And 10% less spell point cost, which is fantastic. And
I'm tempted to say that if you're, particularly if maybe you're a cleric or healer, this might be considered a best in slot item.
I would say so. If my cleric gets it, he's slotting that on, and it's probably not coming off for a while. Probably also my favorite soul, and possibly even my druid. I mean, it's a if you can do some healing, I like having everything. It's compact. It has everything's healing based. You can stick it on there. You don't have to have something in your hand, so you can use that for other stuff, which is fantastic.
Yep. I would also, again, this is a raid item from Fire on Thunder Peak. If you are a sneak attack person, the Dragon Mask is something you might want to take a look at it because it is offering an insightful sneak attack bonus of +6. But it's a +9 insight bonus for any attack that would qualify as a sneak attack.
For damage.
Even if you're not a rogue. Yeah, for damage. So that's real nice.
Also, it's +11 to damage and 2d6 negative energy damage on it as well. So it's pretty good. And then I think the
Deadly 11. As well.
That's
so
the 11 damage.
11 damage. There we go. And Shadow Spike as well, which can do some negative energy damage, which isn't terrible. And then you've got a couple augment slots as well. So and Deception.
The other one that, again, this is the new raid, kind of best in slot, Sightless, which is True Seeing, Death Block, +6 to range and melee power, and +35 to PRR and MRR, which is, if you or anything other than a spellcaster, that's pretty much a whole bunch of stuff that you like.
And even if you are a spellcaster, you might well want it.
Depending on what else you can find in that head slot. But
yeah.
So there's a lot of good options. Kind of got through some stuff. Let's talk about random loot for Helms. We've focused almost exclusively on named items. What do you look for in terms of random loot on a Helm?
Whew. I guess when it comes to now, see, I guess largely I would say I don't because again, Sleegans, but often the way I work, granted, most people are going to have different item ideas than me because I'm kind of a it's all good, kind of guy. But I would say that stats, any kind of stat that you need until you find something else that's going to have that stat that maybe helps you out there. That's something you're going to want to maybe well do. You can get a lot of skills on helmets as well. So if you have a skill that you're looking to boost, that might be something to look at. Best you can do for that. Again, you can get that other places as well, but it's not terrible. I don't know. What would you say? I know you can get spell penetration shows up fairly regularly on helmets. So if you're a caster and you don't have something else, that can be decent.
Helms is not a slot that I use a lot of random stuff with.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's because you generally end up, maybe lower levels. You're just kind of filling out with whatever you get compared to everything else you have, which is generally going to be stats. I mean, that's kind of where it's going to land.
Yep. But especially if you've been playing for a while, say you can do if I was a new player and Crystal Cove came out, I would work first probably on that helmet because it's a 0 minimum level. As soon as any character that's going to be going through Korthos in the future, you can just have something that's sort of crafted to whatever it is you want it to be. So that's a very useful thing to have. And then, like I say, pretty soon you're going to be getting into named items. So,
yeah, named items generally going to be at, but any slot that you need or any stat you need to fill out, you can generally find it on a helm. It's pretty versatile in that sense, which can be really helpful.
I know I have at least one character that has an underwater action item on my helmet. And so at times where I really need underwater action, I'll just quick swap into it.
Yeah, it's a good place to kind of sneak that in for just for a swap in item for when you need to go swimming for an extended period of time. That's kind of one of the places where I tend to find them. Feather falling not as much, but occasionally you can find something like that. I know Senator Davian on our Splat characters, he's got a helm that is, I think it was underwater action, and then it had a slot that he put a Featherfall augment in, kind of thing. So you can do some versatile stuff, but look for the stat that you need to fill in. You can generally find spell points on Helms if you need some spell points. Particularly if, say, you're a melee and epics with Epic Destinies and you need some spell points, it can be a good option there. But Helm for me is not generally a random slot. It almost always is a named item that I have. Because named items generally are better than random loot. So it's just not a slot that I use a lot of random loot on. It's almost always a named item. There's a lot of good helms, and part of that's Menace Legion's fault. Because it's such a good helm, and they had to put more good helms in. So let's close this part of the session. Let's talk about cosmetics. What are some hats we just like cosmetically?
There's a lot. That's the great thing about. There's some. I think we've got some very nice looking helmets in the game. For many years there was Menos Legion's, but I mentioned Renard's cap there. That's a really nice one.
Which I think is the same as the Lucky Hat.
Yeah, it is the same as the Lucky Hat. But if you don't have a Lucky Hat, then that's... I think it's mostly the same. I think it has a different color feather, doesn't it?
I don't know. I never compared the two that closely. It's a swashbuckling musketeer hat. That's what I see with that.
Yeah.
That's the hat that you want. If you're going to be a swashbuckler, get a Lucky Hat or Renard's elegant hat. Renard's can be hard. I think it's bound to character when you get it.
Yeah,
but it's only in one quest in the Wrath of Flame, which is not an overly commonly run quest. It is bound to character on acquire. So
I've seen some people get, you can get like circlets that can be very nice, sort of minor looking, sort of boost to your look. I know some of the ladies in particular out there like that one.
Some other cosmetics. Skunk City in our chat says the bunny hat is the bestimest cosmetic item ever.
It's pretty good.
Which it also has kind of a funny. It has some skill bonuses. Like if you put a scroll in your hand, you get like an extra +3 to use scrolls while you're wearing the bunny hat, and it gives you like a little bonus to jump. I think as well, like a +1 to jump or something like that. So it's. I think you can still get that in the store. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's just a permanent item in there.
I don't remember how I got mine, but it was like a giveaway or something.
Yeah. A lot of our new ones are really good. One of the new, in Trials of the Archons, the Eloquence looks really nice. It's a gold and sort of rust color, red brownish cowl with like sort of almost an Assassin's Creed like point at the top of it. So a lot of folks might very well like that one for cosmetics. We mentioned the big top, but hey, top hat, right?
Top hat's really popular. Pirate hats are, I don't actually see them around as much, but a lot of people when Crystal Cove first came out really liked the pirate hats, just because of the way they looked. You saw those people running around with those a lot. Dragon helms, I think, are generally pretty neat looking. I like them. They're good helmets just in general and are pretty useful for a wide variety of folks depending on the color, but just cosmetically I think they look pretty neat. And the mushroom cap is a really popular cosmetic one right now as well.
If you like to look a little bit silly and look like a bunch of colors vomited on your face, I would say the Mask of Comedy is a good one.
Actually, if you look close to the masks of comedy and tragedy, they are the comedy tragedy faces.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
If you put them together, so
yeah.
There's some fun cosmetic stuff there. If you've got a favorite cosmetic helm or a helm that you really like to use throughout the game, leave a comment. Let us know what it is.
We have one more we need to talk about.
All right.
Mushroom cap. It is now one of the most popular cosmetics in the game. The mushroom cap. It looks like you have a giant mushroom on your head.
Yeah. If you want to be a talking mushroom, role-playing as a talking mushroom, there you go. That's what you need.
Yep. Yep.
So leave us a comment. Let us know what kind of helms you like, what cosmetic helms you particularly like, and we'll probably share them on the show next time. For now, we're going to move into game news. Update 27 was released. We've already kind of gone through the release notes a couple times from Lumania, so I'm not really going to go through them. But just some stuff that I pulled out from playing. So the quest death counter now only counts your deaths, and you'll only see how many times other people died if you die.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm pretty sure that bit is a bug, and what I'm going to have to bring to the devs actually come Monday morning. I don't think it's intended to be that way.
You know, it's for my personal opinion is whatever. I'm happy with the change, and if I have to suffer through that for a year, I'm fine with that.
Well, yeah, but there's a few
nice.
few people who it does matter, and that would be permadeath
Absolutely.
folks, people who are trying to do achievements. You know, say, hey, can you solo a raid or can you small group a raid? You know, things like that. Not being able to see that death counter for other people in your party kind of is a cheap way to sort of
absolutely.
cheat your way through some of that stuff. Yeah.
It would be better if it didn't do that, but you know, it's the way it is right now. Just kind of a interesting little funny thing, but also I did get to see the banner. If you want to see me use the banner, you can watch DDOCast Splat. I thought the banner was kind of a neat little thing. I noticed it moved when it moved to the soul stone when he died. Though I thought that was kind of funny. And I think it's generally had a lot of positive reviews. I saw some forum threads of people wondering what the point of the banner was, and there is, if you don't want to see it, there is a UI option to turn it off as well, so you can do that.
And just to be clear, the point is really, I mean, the point at its most basic level was to help one of our DDO engineers diagnose stand your ground. But after he was using it to diagnose stand your ground, he showed it to us and said, "Hey, do you think players would want to see this?" And I was like, "Yeah, probably." So at least right now, it will help, I guess, you better understand where your hireling is supposed to be standing their ground. And then also, as we're working on hireling AI, you'll be able to see those changes, you know, hey, is stand your ground working? The other thing is there's some thought that in the near future, we should be able to make it optionally visible for other members of your party. So that could sort of serve a whole bunch of possible sort of coordination and tactics uses, where it's like, hey, see where that flag is? That's where I'm doing the resin, that kind of thing. But we don't have that yet. But it's something that, you know,
well, you'd have to use a hireling for it. It actually might be kind of a neat thing, just as a carrot. If everyone just had a feat, there's like plant a flag, boom, there's your flag.
Exactly. That may well happen sometime in the future.
Could be kind of a useful thing.
Yep.
Let's see. Also, I just want to. I did go in and check the, or at least according to the release notes. So there's tomes of resistance and power. So PRR, MRR, and then melee range and spell power. 1 and 2. The cost for that is going to be 12,500 remnants to get to a +2, which is pretty high. But there was kind of some hints that there's some changes with Mysterious Remnants coming that had to be there's some hot fixing stuff that had to happen, and one of the things before that came out, there was kind of some hints that there was some future stuff with Remnants coming. That may or may not be completely within the hotfix release notes.
There was some change in the hotfix release notes. So another thing I would say is, you know, with the new monster manual, we did give people a source to get up to 10,000 mysterious remnants from doing the monster manual. So
I still think the numbers are out of whack. Less the numbers that you pick them up, but more the frequency of which they drop is where I would like to see some. And someone actually, so now the mysterious remnants, if you're a 1 level over the level where you used to get remnants, you have half the chance for remnants to appear. If you're 2 levels over, you have a quarter of the regular chance. Someone proposed tying it with kind of like the repetition bonus, or Or no, it was the over level bonus. So if you were over level, you'd get a 10% penalty to remnants, and then 2 levels over would be 20, 30. I think it's 20. It's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 75. But this will at least give more opportunity for mysterious remnants. Which initially this meant that they were not appearing for appropriate level characters, which is why they were turned off for a couple days.
Yeah. Yep.
It happens.
Well, not only that, but they were also appearing for people who were far, far over the level. So, for example, if you were, and that was a farming concern, because why not, right? So, sorry.
Happens.
Yeah.
I thought this was funny. On Demon Assault, the quest no longer offers a discrete XP bonus when players kill all available monsters in the dungeon.
Yeah.
Kind of look at that. Oh, that's kind of a funny way of doing it.
No one knows you did it if they're all dead.
One way to be discreet. Let's see, other things of note. This is a reference to the new raid, Defiler of the Just, which has been fairly laggy. It's something they're actively investigating. It was not meant to be the solution to raid lag, but one of the hotfix changes was to limit Horned Devil teleportation. Was done in part to see if improved performance of the raid, reducing the instance cap on Amrath, and turning off crafting directly from the shared bank crafting storage was also done in part to see if it impacted raid performance, although there were other reasons for those changes as well. I would say I can't really say if it helped from the sense that I didn't actually run the raid before those changes came in, but it's still kind of laggy. I'm not trying to
it is. It is. I mean, yeah, we're well aware that Defiler of the Justice got some problems right now. As a matter of fact, I know on Friday we had a whole bunch of people in QA and devs form raid groups, and for most of Friday afternoon, they went in on an internal environment to try to diagnose. Let me back up just a little bit. One reason why you would test this in an internal environment is if there is, say, an issue with the coding in the RAID itself, something that you can essentially remove some of the things like communication between servers and hardware issues and ping rates and things like that when you're testing it internally. And they went and hit that rate over and over and over and over and over again. They did it with all warlocks. They did it with no warlocks. They did it with artificers, trying out all the different classes and combinations that they could think of to see what kind of performance degradation would happen in Defiler of the Just. Unfortunately, they didn't really get any major information out of it, other than, well, I guess it's not a warlock thing. Well, I guess it's not an artificer thing. And they were actually running internal diagnostic sort of debugging while they were doing that as well, so that when they would see, say, a lag spike or performance, people call it lag, but sometimes it's game client issues, or perhaps an AI issue, or some kind of combat log issue, for example. It can be a whole wide range of things other than, quote, lag. Unfortunately, we didn't find any smoking guns on Friday. So what that means is, come Monday, we're going to have to keep looking at it. But it may also well be that there's something where it's working fine, in a closed dev environment, that when you add the reality of, say, server hardware and server communication and raid groups communicating in their party, the way things go back and forth around the world, right? Something there might be a problem with Defiler of the Just. And that's significantly harder to diagnose because you're kind of trying to find a needle in a haystack there. But we absolutely are going to keep looking at it, and hopefully we'll find some things that we can do. Now, we do think that limiting Horned Devil teleportation did have some benefit. It didn't fix the problem, but it did improve things a little bit. That was one of the things that we knew was causing a problem. Frankly, I think we might be adding orthons to that list as well for the same reason. But there's still more. Long and short of it, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to try to figure out what's going on in that quest. Hopefully, it's not a problem of just monster density, but if that is the problem, well, we'll have to deal with that too.
I would say, in general, that the lag I've experienced in there is not the what I would call more instance crashing, where everything just freezes up for 20 minutes. It's just more choppy in general. But when you're running a raid that you have like a minute or 2 minutes to kill 2 different sets of mobs on separate timers, or you fail, that's still kind of problematic.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
understood. It is something we are absolutely looking at. So,
Verquil had an interesting post regarding spell DC theory. Long term, they may consider adding additional reflex-based spells for DC casters, which are somewhat lacking. They do feel that if your entire arsenal of spells includes attacks only versus 1 or 2 kinds of saves, and you're choosing to build a narrow caster, and should know you'll be penalized against certain enemies. That's true for all casters. They're not saying the exact degree of penalty is perfect. That's always going to be subjective. Fire Reavers, using the example from the thread he was posting in, have quite low reflex saves, and that's a weakness that can be exploited. They don't really see it as an inherently desirable goal for players to be choosing and thinking about Necro versus Enchant versus Evocation most of the time while in a quest. They see players thinking about attacking Reflex, Will, or Fortitude and using spells appropriate to the monsters in those cases, which still might somewhat be modified by their monster features, but you should, of course, keep spell schools in mind in general, so you know which your saves are strongest. But against a particular monster, we expect the difference of saves to often be as large or larger than the difference between the different spell school DCs. That's the kind of things they're happy to hear detailed, specific numeric feedback about. Should it be more meaningful that you use Necro because your character is built for it, rather than to attack Reflex because the monster is weak to it? Right now, they feel that you should have to pay attention to the enemy monster and not blindly use Necromancy Fortitude spells as an example, just because they're your, quote, best spells. Realize a single spell's school doesn't always present diverse and interesting options in and of themselves in regards to saves, though they also don't necessarily believe DDO must support a single spell school as being as diverse and capable as handling absolutely any opponent equally well. I agree. That's my stance. And I've been saying it for the one-trick pony thing for a while. If you're going to be a DC caster, you might have to think about how you're going to do your DC casting. If you're just going to use
want
finger
to whale
of death,
and finger everything.
No, that won't work.
Right.
That's why D&D is such a great game. Is you have to consider what the monster is and how to attack it. And that's true in pen and paper as well.
Yeah.
You might still get lucky, but...
I mean, that said, I don't want to be too snarky about it. We are aware that there are people who feel that, hey, I am a DC caster, and what the heck do I do at endgame? Particularly if I'm running Epic Elite. That is a challenge that all DC casters face in many ways. And it's something that, it's a challenging question to answer, because on the one hand, we don't want to say, well, yeah, of course you can't just blindly insta-kill everything on Epic Elite. But on the other hand, we recognize that if you've built all the way through to endgame that character to spec for DC casting, then there needs to be some sense that you are contributing to the group. Right now, I believe the player community largely feels that contribution is strictly a matter of how many things do I kill. And that may not ultimately be the solution here, but maybe they're not wrong either, that it is frustrating if you are, say, used to just finger and willing your way through to level 28, and now you're doing Epic Elite, and it's just not working anymore. So I don't have an answer for that question, but I know that it is something that, Varg did talk about in this post, but it is also something that, we're aware of. I don't know what the exact solution is. Frankly, that wouldn't be my call to make. I'll leave it up to
I don't know if anyone really knows, to be honest.
Designers on that one, but
it's a tricky thing balancing DCs and spells and stuff. But I think, if you're going to be a DC caster, be creative and recognize that if you're going to really, really specialize in a single school, you're not going to be able to use that against every single monster in the game. Now, having run some of the stuff on Epic Elite, my cleric, who's not really a DC cleric, got a couple implosions on some of the tieflings. the tieflings didn't really pose a large barrier to spell resistance. The other thing with DC casting is you have to recognize that there are monster flavors. Some monsters are more defensive in nature. They have things like spell resistance and good saves, like the things we're fighting as outsiders tend to have spell resistance. So you might have to combat that. And
some of it is also a perception of how frequently it works.
Right.
If you are, say, on Epic Elite and you're able to insta kill something 50% of the time, that means that means half the time you're not. Does that feel to you like you're, quote, worthless? I think some folks would probably argue that the answer to that is yes, while others would say, hey, that's like you just did. Hey, that's still pretty good. Okay, so now it's not 50%. What if it's 30%? Where does that fall into the range of, is it still worthwhile to do, and that kind of thing. So it's a very difficult design sort of thing to work around. And I don't know that we've nailed the solution to it yet, but it's something that we only appreciate. So.
It's a fun thing to have some feedback on, and it's definitely going to be very subjective and where things should be. I would just say if your complaint is that my DC caster's not working in Epic Elite, but all you're doing is casting things from one spell school, you're not using any kind of debuffs or any kind of things that, being creative about how to deal with that situation. If it's just, I can't finger anything, look at your character. Look at some ways you can give your character other attributes. You don't have to be the best enchantment caster to throw enchantment spells that might land. If something won't get fingered, maybe you're using it. And I think what Virgil is saying here is a really good way to think about it, that it's not just about your spell school, it's what are the monster saves, what are they good against, where's their weakness, right? Fire Reavers has a weakness in reflex saves, okay? Find something that works for reflex saves. There's not a lot of, like, what you think of as DC casting in the reflex save sphere, and I get that. Because there's not really crowd control and insta-kill spells that are reflex saves in general. But that's not always the case. So look for different ways you can utilize stuff like that. Something like Hypnotism is a cheap level 1 spell that gives a -3 penalty to will saves right off the bat. There's no save against that. If you land it, you have +3 to all your DCs. So there's some things that you can do as a player to be more creative, to overcome some of those obstacles. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't things that need to happen to make DC casting more effective and better. I'm just saying that if your complaint is, I can't finger something 100% of the time, even though I've invested everything into it on Epic Elite, having the maximum DC value in a particular spell school, to me, does not mean that you should be able to use that spell school against every single mob in the game 100% of the time.
I think that's, to some extent, what Vargrill was saying there.
Yeah, I think that would be a good paraphrase as well. Moving on, off of my soapbox, there was a question why there was not a heroic raid for the new content. Steelstar wrote that there are a lot of reasons, not all of which you can go into detail, but to outline one of the things behind the decision was no heroic raid items meant that there would be more and better epic raid items. The 6 extra raid items that appeared after the first Lamania pass, as well as some of the time spent making feedback adjustments, would not have been possible if there was a heroic raid that needed to be designed, built, balanced, and added to the treasure. They decided it'd be better to focus on the epic raid. I'm perfectly happy with that. I know some people like heroic raids, but they don't. Unless you're going to camp out at that level, you're probably not going to run the raid that much at heroics anyways. So.
Yeah, it was unfortunately one of those tough decisions of you get to a point where it's like, well, do we do a heroic version of the raid or do we do X, Y, and Z? Do we need to have X, Y, and Z for update 27? Well, then we can't have a heroic raid. And at some point, you have to make those decisions. And unfortunately, that was the decision made in this case. Is that
I think it was the right decision.
Yeah.
That's my sense. If a heroic raid is going to be something you're going to run once, twice, maybe 3 times leveling up. And after that, I mean, do you really want to go run a heroic raid at epic levels when you can just run the epic raid? And yeah, that's kind of where I stood on the whole thing. I think it makes more sense to invest more time in making the epic raid better than to spend split some of that time off and develop a raid that is probably not going to be running anywhere near as much. So there was a tease for monster manuals. No worries. Thanked Worry Jerry, not Cordovan Jerry. Said he was asking for drows basically in the monster manual. And No Worries said, we'll go ahead and let everyone know that the next volume to be released also doesn't include drow. I know, I'm ashamed by the lack of drowish goodness. But drow just might show up in volume 7. Nothing is ever guaranteed.
I might have gone to No Worries after last week's DDOcast and said, hey, what's up with no drow in the monster manual? And I think this might be related to that.
Fair enough. Drow would be a popular there's always if drow was in there, it would be something else. Like there'd be something else people would be clamoring about. Why isn't this monster in the monster manual? Drow are fairly ubiquitous throughout the game though, so it makes sense that drow would be the one that people want to see in the monster manual. But I guarantee you, as soon as drow is in the monster manual, there's going to be something else next, right? As soon as we get gnomes, there's going to be some other race that everyone's going to be clamoring about. It's just kind of the way it works. But the thing that I took out of this is, hey, there's another monster manual already in development, and they already know what monsters are going to be in it, 1. And 2, there's going to be no one after that. So, yeehaw.
Oh.
I know a lot of people like those. Spell power scaling. This is related to warlocks, primarily, because they have, on their Eldritch Blasts, what's called spell power scaling. And I grabbed this out because I wasn't really reading closely, and I didn't catch this. But the idea is, so 150 spell power scaling is not a limitation; it's a multiplier. Most spells have 100% scaling with the spell power statistic, i.e., whatever you cast, if you cast, you get 100% of your spell power to that. So, if you have 0 spell power and you do 100 damage, or 100 spell points, 100 damage with your spells, you do 100 damage. If you have 100 spell power, you would deal 200 damage, so plus 100%. If you'd had 200 spell power, it would be 300 damage, so 100 plus 200 from your spell power. If you have 200 spell power and 150% spell power scaling, the 150% spell power scaling means that your spell power, your 200 spell power becomes 300 spell power, which would be plus 300% damage, so you deal 400 damage. So that's something good to kind of be aware of there.
And who said math was useless in high school?
I use math all the time, mostly geometry.
Yep.
Let's see. Remnant drops. For what it's worth, elite drops in larger amounts than hard, but a similar chance of getting drop. There are large values only showing up about 5% of the time on average. So something like 1 out of 20 times, which is, I think, pretty, kind of makes sense for what I've been seeing, even though I haven't really been trying to track it.
Can I just say this weekend we do have a bonus, a double remnants boost. And man, I was running through all the giant hold stuff, and then on Friday night I ran through the Trials of the Archon stuff a couple of times. In about 2 hours, I picked up 500 mysterious remnants on Friday, and then another 500-ish on Saturday. So I'm sitting at over 1,000 mysterious remnants from 2 days, about 4.5 hours of playing here. So
Jeez.
This is a good weekend to be getting those remnants.
It's a pretty good rate. I don't really keep track of how much I'm making. I just kind of look in my shared bank and see where I'm at. I think one of the things that's skewing my my perception of remnants, although I said my general sense of remnants is I'd like to, even if the numbers got tweaked down a little bit, I'd like to see the thing on the ground more often, because I like seeing it, right? It's like, ooh, hey, I got something, yay! That's kind of my personal preference, is to see the thing more often than not, because it's not as much fun to get to the end of the quest and there's no loot in the end of the chest that you were looking for, the named loot, right? well, that's kind of a different thing. But I'd like to see it more often. But I think the thing that kind of skews my perception is I don't generally dump my collectibles bag into my shared bank as often as I dump my ingredients bag into my shared bank. So I think that's having a bit of a skew with my perception of things. But in any case, let's see, there's Windows 10. There's some information on Windows 10 and DirectX 12 from Coco Majobo, who I think is kind of a new poster. He has a very low post count.
Yeah, I actually just set up his forum account this past week, but he's been with DDO QA for quite a while now.
So there's some questions about Windows 10, which is launching last week, something around there. You can upgrade now. So he's been doing the cautionary DDO Windows 10 compatibility testing leading up to today's release, and can say that we've encountered relatively few issues compared to past upgrades. They have had some small issues with downloading and installing the client fresh on a Windows 10 machine, but nothing terribly disruptive. Basically, he would feel generally safe to upgrade to Windows 10, at least as far as DDO is concerned. If you do have any issues, feel free to submit reports via the link in the signature, which I'm pretty sure was the bug link.
Yep, ddObugs.turbine.com.
Mention Windows 10 in the subject, and that will get sorted to him. As a side note, he generally recommends that DDO be played with DirectX 9. The later versions never meshed quite so well with DDO. Yeah. I've never had a complaint about how the game looked personally.
I haven't either. I actually run DX11, and I have for several years now with no issue. But I would say that if you are having an issue, graphically in particular, maybe game performance in particular, try setting it to DX9 and see if that solves your problem.
I think I've mostly been on DX9. I was actually wondering, we were talking about the RAID lag earlier, kind of wondering if Windows 10 might have anything to do with it, or DirectX 12.
I suppose it's possible.
It's possible. And that would be something that would be, I would assume, hard to test for beforehand.
Well, like I say, that was part of the reason of Friday's thing, is they removed all the sort of hardware and internet tube communication things, variables from it, and just ran it, in an internal environment. And unfortunately, like I said, things were actually running really good.
It's a troubleshooting tactic. You eliminate as many variables as you can. I do this all the time when I'm doing sound troubleshooting and stuff like that. It's what can I eliminate? The last bit of news is actually Lotro related, but I put it in our game news because it's Turbine, and it provides some interesting possibilities. And I'm kind of personally hoping that maybe Lotro's the guinea pig this time around. So what's going on? They are merging the Lotro servers. I don't actually know how much they're merging them, but they're merging them. And I'm going to link to the Lotro players news, not the actual one, just because they had a good kind of summary, and they also have a link to them discussing these changes. And if you're around for the DDO server merge, you'll probably find this to be fairly similar to that. So they're going to merge the servers. So what happens after moving over the servers? Lots of fun times are ahead. The new data center moving to provides a much faster connection to the internet with more direct ports to all territories. They're updating all of the software to the latest and greatest versions, and all of the worlds are moving to the new top-of-the-line hardware, allowing for less interruptions of service and smoother gameplay experience for us all. Having fewer worlds means the ability for the team to run more live events on those worlds, and the consolidation of players will mean the worlds will be more active, giving you more people to form fellowships, kinships, or even just enjoy a festival with. They're really excited about this chance to reinvigorate Middle-earth, and they hope everyone else is as well. Some questions that you might obviously have about how this might work. The naming priority, in particular, will go to the character that was on that server first, unless they've been inactive for over a year, in which case they'll be giving a -1 after their name. The character with the name change required will be giving a free token to change their name. That's the same thing they did with DDO when we merged servers, 7 years ago? A while ago.
Right. Yep.
What if you have all of your character slots filled? They have doubled the amount of max character slots you can purchase. My only complaint there is note the word purchase, which can be problematic. I think what happened with DDO when they did that, you had the option to pick which characters you were going to use for your character slots, and the other ones would be grayed out, and so you'd have to delete a character until you do that.
I'm pretty sure that's the way it's actually going to work with Lotro here too. So,
and I would say, so the reason I put this in there is one, server merging, and some players have been clamoring for that. I personally support the move. I think a more active server is always better, and there are some not so active servers in DDO. If you can do it without completely breaking the game and having lag everywhere, higher population is better. You just have more people to run with. So that's kind of where I land on that. I like seeing more people to run with. That's great. It also just feels more fun when you got a lot of people running around. You go into the marketplace, you're in the fourth instance of the market. Like, hey, the game's alive and kicking. We like this. Certainly, the name change thing is kind of an issue, particularly if you have a name that you're really, really tied to and you really like that name. And I get that. I did not have that problem the first time with any of my characters, so it wasn't an issue for me. I think actually what happened was they said, we're going to merge servers, and I went to the server that I was going to be merging to, and created a character with that name, with my name, which one told me that yes, it was there, and two, nobody else had, like, I could preserve it until I went there, and then I just deleted that character right before the server merge. But
yeah,
and I would say the character slots thing, my perception of today's environment, most players are not running enough characters that they would run into that as a problem necessarily, but I'm sure there is a sizable portion that would.
The thing is if it was just a matter of character slots and character names, that's pretty easy to deal with. But if you think about where DDO is today, as opposed to where it was back in 2007, 8?
I don't remember.
Yeah. We have guild airships. We have guild, levels. We have TR caches. We've got, there's all sorts of variables besides just, say, moving a character from one server to another. And the server merge technology that was used back at that time and, was used previously in Lotro as well, simply can't handle that stuff. So it's one thing to say, hey, we're going to merge servers for a bunch of good reasons, and the worst thing that might happen to you is you're going to have a -1 by your name, or maybe have a few less free character slots than you had before. That, I think, is one thing. It'd be another thing to say, oh, and by the way, your guild's gone, guild airships are gone. How much money did you spend on that guild? All that sort of thing. And so that is a roadblock. We can't, say, do any kind of, population consolidation unless we are able to address these issues. What's interesting is that Lotro, yes, they have things like kinships. They have, player housing. They have things that people have spent real money on that they need to take care of. And what's interesting with the way Lotro was doing it is they've spent the development time, frankly, to work through this stuff to the point that they have made this announcement, right? So what it's going to work and again, I'm not Lotro's community manager. I'm pretty busy all day with TDO, so I may be somewhat wrong here, but one of the things I know that they've done with Lotro is they've created a system where for some of that stuff, all of the stuff where they need to, I know kinships in particular and player housing, when you move from one server to another, and again, remember this is voluntary for a while on Lotro here, you're going to get an item in your inventory. And when you click on that item, it'll essentially repopulate the guild and repopulate your house in the world of your choice. So what it does is it's actually a way to take all that information from one server, consolidate it into basically a clicky, and then you move that clicky with you and then repopulate it when you get onto your other world. I don't know how they're going to deal with the thing where what if the two kinships have the same name? I don't know what the answer to that is. I'd have to ask.
I would guess it would be similar to the characters that you'd put a -1 and then let them change it.
Yeah.
Although I would hazard a guess to say that if a guild has the same name on different servers, it might actually be the same guild on two different servers.
Right. Exactly right. And so there's still some complications there. But they may have worked that stuff out. Like I say, I'm not totally up on all the nitty gritty of this thing. But just think about what kind of tech they've developed to be allowed to do that. And if we were to have some kind of population consolidation on our end, we would need very much something just along those lines, right? Because you're going to, at the very least, you're going to have TR caches and guild airships. And probably a bunch of other things I haven't even thought of.
The one thing they did say is that mail is not going to transfer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but that's not a big deal, is it, really, for the most part?
It's easy to empty. Emptying a TR cache is a little more involved. Particularly since a lot of players, actually, myself included, actually use that as long-term storage.
Yeah,
I've got stuff in there that I have no intention of actually using probably ever again, but I still hang on to it for who knows what reason. But it's in the TR cache, so I don't really have to worry about it. So,
yeah. So it's interesting. Like I say, we don't. It's not as easy as just say hitting Control C, Control V to bring it to DDO. But the fact that they've been able to work through those issues and find what seems to be really good solutions to them certainly bodes well were we to want to do something like that on DDO side.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I put in here. Is it's
yeah,
like if Lotro's doing it, it's working for the same turbine. It's a turbine game as well. So it opens the door, assuming everything goes swimmingly well. I'm sure there will be a small portion of the community over there that will have issues and will probably have to get in touch with Turbine. And although my general experience that stuff like that, Turbine's pretty good about trying to make it right as best as they can. So within the realms of what they can do. Let's see. Bugs. There's an issue with +3 Tomes of Fate. Basically, non-VIP players that want to consume a Tome of Fate will need to speak to a Fate Spinner first. And I kind of was wondering, it might, I don't know if you can answer this, but based on just kind of a quick glance through the thread, it sounds like basically you have to be able to manipulate your destinies or fate points to actually eat the tome.
Yeah, right.
So a VIP would therefore need to be not in a quest when doing it as well, if that would then extrapolate to that. The good thing is it doesn't actually consume the tome and then not apply it. It doesn't let you eat the tome. So
yeah, and I think I heard some engineers saying that they were going to try to work through that so that they could remove those kind of complications. But at least right now, that's the way it's not that quote +3 Tomes of Fate don't work. It's just that you probably need to speak to a fate spinner first and be outside of a quest.
You have to be able to manipulate your destinies to eat the tome.
Yeah.
Which I'm kind of curious if that was ever the case with the +2s, but
that was actually a question we had, because we were like, well, how's come? Because the answer should be yes. There's nothing different with the +3s that aren't with the +1s and 2s. But then how's come we didn't see all this with the +1s and 2s, right? So, I don't know. But the answer, at least when you look at the code, is the answer, yeah, technically this is the way it should be working with +1s and 2s as well.
Huh. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see. Crafting from the storage bank is also turned off, sadly. Hopefully it will make a return.
It will. I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably in patch. It's possible it'll get pushed off after there if something comes up, but most likely in a patch here fairly soon.
That's good. I'd be looking forward to that.
Yep.
Bonus days, which I didn't write down, are double remnant chances and Champion Hunter weeks, double remnant chances, and the cloaks and
crowns.
Cloaks, bracers, and then the fancy crown.
Not the bracers.
Not the bracers.
Not the bracers. Just the cloaks and the crowns.
Interesting. Okay.
I know.
There you go. Store news. So Trials of Archons is in the store for 495 turbine points. Those +3 Tomes of Fate are 795 for the upgrade, 1295 for the +3 tome. Monster Manual 5 is 595 turbine points. And the +3, the Tomes of Fate are actually only available through today. Just an FYI. Sales, you can get 20% off of Shared Bank Storage, Character Bank Upgrades, Storage Bags, and the Shared Bank Platinum Vault. And the freebie for the week is a lasting potion of plus 20 times 10 with the code GUMPR, 1 per account. And those
Lasting
will
potion of jump.
Yeah. So it'll be through Thursday. Will be that.
That's kind of a good one. If
the jumping?
Yeah, lasting potion of jumping is last through rest, and that basically it's an hour of plus 20 jump. Now, granted, there's a lot of ways to get jump, but not everyone's got it, and this is free, and it gives you 10 of them.
Levels.
So, yeah.
Is there a minimum level on that? Probably not.
I don't know.
Would guess not. But by everywhere, there might be. And hopefully it's bound to account, not bound to character, which I think they fixed recently.
No, as a matter of fact, but we didn't fix it recently, but we did figure out what was going on. There was actually a code change that was slipped into update, because we were like, how's good? Because I kept on going to Lara and saying, hey, people are saying this item, which is supposed to be bound to account, is bound to character. What's up? And she'd look it up in the what's called the DDO store catalog and say, it should be bound to account. How's come it's not? So come to find out there was a halo effect with some code that, even though it was in the catalog as bound to account, when it actually went into your account, it switched over to bound to character. So we figured that out. We put in a fix, and again, that'll most likely be in the next patch.
Okay.
Yep.
152nd Chronicle. There was the gathering for buffs at Gen Con. The DDO character planner was updated as well. The guild,
particularly with Warlock.
Yeah.
That's the big change there. Yep.
The Silent Blades are the guild for the week, a small Charlona-based guild looking for people to join them. They tend to play between 9 p.m. and 1:30 a.m. Eastern Time. They are new and returning player-friendly. The comment, if you had to pick a side in the Shadowroth battlefield, would you side with the Demons, the Devils, or the Archons? I'm going with Archons, just because, light, good. It's kind of their team.
I don't know. Can I work with Militia?
DDO Players News discussed Update 27 and celebrated Gary Gygax's birthday. DDOcast got a shout-out for debating Update 27 and XPGS with Jerry as our guest moderator. Thanks again. That was a good episode. The Damsels of DDO went to the Demon Web. DDO Gamer reviewed Update 27. Axel looked at the 5 most underrated adventure packs in video. The Order of Syncletica looked at the Trials of Archons. Enrique looked at the new Monster Manual. And Lesthane Garfield talked about his 3 favorite rare encounters in Episode 4 of Notes to Strike a Chord. It's a nice little short video, or YouTube series. I think he was up to 4. I don't know if he's done a 5th one yet, but he was up to 4, and I listened to them all. They're pretty short. He has a flair for the dramatic. He role plays a bard very well.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I like that. You're right that they're short and sweet and informative. So they're really off to a nice start.
And he's giving stuff away too, if you are looking for that as well. Let's see. You can also check out the named loot in Update 27. There's a post that kind of shows what everything is and what it looks like. You guys did this for the last pack too, I think.
We did for Update 25. There was no new named loot with Update 26. And I did it, and I'm going to be doing it in the future because, frankly, I think it's a very valuable thing to be able to just sort of say, well, I don't know what's in it. What's it look like? And so I want to get your feedback, though, if there's some things that I can do better, some things that you would prefer. But I think it's been very useful to have. So hopefully you guys are digging it as well.
You could give me all the items so I can take pictures of them. Let's see. Some blogs for the week. In Video Gamers Up to 27 review, Bambi the Insane looked at evil alignments. Players News had their 43rd episode. See, Axel DDO, he talked about the overrated adventure packs. He also did an episode on Update 27 loot. And then, of course, there was Notes to Strike a Chord, which I favorited on DDOcast YouTube page. So if you're on the YouTube homepage, you should be able to find that as well. A fun little forum topic I just pulled out. There was a bug with exploit weakness. Basically, what someone was able to do was exploit weakness. Basically, says that if you don't critically hit, you expand your crit threat range until you do critically hit. And he found a way using throwing weapons to get that to the point where he had a negative 23 to 20 crit range, which gave the weapon a 212.8 base damage rating, which was pretty funny. I mean, it's not really it wasn't a practical thing. It was just kind of a funny little thing that he did some analysis on, and I think Steelstar chimed in and was kind of intrigued by the analysis as well. So,
by the way, it was just a display issue. It didn't actually do that. So
doesn't
yeah.
The way that the base damage rating is calculated is it's basing it off of the crit range, and when the crit range expanded to a point where it actually wasn't achievable, it just kind of kept increasing the base, because you can't roll below a 1 anyway, so it's not like it's actually going to do anything. And
I don't know. If you took your D20 and rolled it into a black hole, perhaps
roll it through a portable hole in a bag of holding.
Yeah.
Or it rolls, goes into the bag of holding, and then pushes it into the portable hole.
Yeah, there you go.
Could do something like that. Let's see, DDOCast news. DDOCast Splat had another episode this last week. We ran Red Fens and Church and the Cult. Also, the Summer Scavenger Extravaganza ended. Thanks all for participating. Those who did, people told me they had a lot of fun, and I'm glad to hear that. So just some of the quick winners. If you did win something, give me a few days to get it out there. I had a busy week last week and I kind of fast-tracked getting the guild rewards out because Astral Shards were on sale. So kind of helped me there. So give me a few days to contact you, get you your stuff. But it's coming. And Sherry and I have to figure out how we're going to do the swag bag stuff. But just some of the quick winners. The grand prize winner was Andrew Flame. So he won 5,000 turbine points. First place went to Lady Wolf, who's also my guild leader. Barely. There was I'll go through later. So she won one of the 2,500 turbo point codes. Saba Jade and Aerofen won the other 2 in the draw. Oh boy. Crazy Seek.
Krechek, if I was to guess, maybe.
Sure. I think it's Russian or somewhere in that world, part of the world kind of name. He won second with Squidmaster and Sirium also getting that. Krishek also got an Autos box, and Matrim David also got an Autos box as well. And just kind of a fun thing to note, Matrim David he was on the fairly low end of the scale for that drawing too. The guilds, the Lava Divers, my guild, won the first place prize by a narrow margin. However, we decided to defer the prize, not really feeling that we needed more shards. So the first place prize went to Naughty Desires on Orion, second place went to Unknown Heroes on Orion, and third place went to Legends of Orion, also on Orion. Well done, Orion.
Let me just tack onto this that I still have not heard back from a few too many grand prize winners and, say, lousy chain shirt or docent winners. I've PM'd you on the DDO forums, so if you took part and are eligible to receive one of these things, please check your PMs. Get back to me. I don't really feel like hunting you down, but I need to know what your character name and server is. So,
and that's for the Makar's DDO challenge.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry.
Should just to mention that if you participate in that, that's what he's referring to there.
Yeah. But in regard to your swag bag, it's going to be the same process. I'm going to need a character name and a server. And I think I should be able to mail it to you, but if it won't let me mail it to you, I'll have to hand it to you in person, in which case we can just coordinate through PM in terms of how to get that. So,
just some of the statistics out of the game, or the scavenger hunt. The top 4 scorers were within 7 points of each other. So there was a nice little clump at the top, and then it kind of another clump just over, kind of between 50 and 30 points was another big clump as well. The scores for the guilds, so Lava Divers and Naughty Desires were within 3 points of each other, and then the third place was only 1.25 away from the top one. Krechek gave us the most waterfalls with 155 waterfalls. I I looked at about 1,000 pictures of waterfalls, and some of them were deemed to be not waterfalls. So I looked at a lot of pictures of waterfalls. The most unique monsters I got was 23, also from Kreechek. He used hobgoblins, which is a good choice. He thoroughly abused Tangleroot for hobgoblins. And then Andrew Flame found 16 different damsels in distress, which was way more than I was expecting when I wrote that one. But I was kind of in the mood of I want to give more points than less points. So I kind of people ask, so you just mean like the damsel of distress in I Dream of Jeets, or is this random gal that's behind a prison cell? Is that a damsel of distress? I'm like, well, yeah, it's a damsel of distress. So I kind of went with that. As far as NPCs in multiple locations, Jeets, Sidonie, Elminster, and Anna were all really popular choices. If you want to see the list of thrones, you can go check out the forum thread, but there was a sizable number of thrones. Again, Tangleroot got thoroughly abused because the first part of Tangleroot has a throne, and you can run that in 7 different quests. So I saw a few people doing that. Bosses outside of the raids, most everyone got the Stormreaver because he's around in a lot of places. The Demon Queen in DQ1, Truthful One in the House of Fearland Theater. Loth was in Spinner of Shadows and Beyond the Rift. Something that maybe a lot of people didn't know, Vela is actually in the Bogwater Tavern. Although she's not named Vela, you have to kind of know who she is. And Tovin was in House Cannith, which is where everyone got him, but he's also an Epic Ghost of Chance, which I didn't see anyone use. A few people got Lord of Blades in the Bladeford Creation area. And then Sorjek, which I didn't see anyone use. Sorjek is actually in Stealer of Souls as well. And there were 5 memorials. I don't think anyone got all of them, but there's the Gary Gygax Memorial, Dave Arneson, the Boston One Ribbon, the Founders Fountain, and Shybee and Evening Star. So there you go. Glad you enjoyed it. It's kind of fun to see what people came up with. And prizes will be forthcoming. Other gaming news, Gen Con is this weekend. If you were at Gen Con, I hope you had a lot of fun. If you're listening to this at Gen Con, I'm not sure why. You should go to Gen Con. But also, PAX Prime is coming up August 28th through 31st. We will be having a gather for buffs here in Seattle at the Rock Bottom Brewery on 5th Avenue in Seattle, Friday, August 28th at 9 p.m. And we'll be there until we party wipe. Lightning Post. Let's see. Day News wrote this is regarding our last debate episode about Update 27 and XP changes. He also really liked that sword. So it'll be kind of one of the new must-have items for non-swashbuckling single-weapon fighting builds. I think also sword and board one as well. But he pointed out that perfect single-weapon fighting doubles your Vorpal range, which would be rather effective with a weapon that has Sovereign Vorpal and improved banishing on it. Hee-haw.
Interesting. I didn't think about that. I will say one thing though. A change from last week's show. That longsword did get its crit chance nerfed a little bit.
Yeah, it's 18 to 20 now, right? Instead of 17 to 20.
Yep. 17
to 20 was a little excessive, especially with a 15% double strike on it. Regarding effects and debuffs on hit effects, he said it depends on the weapon type or character, but for range he loves crippling and tendon slice since they have no save. So it's pretty effective, and it basically lets you keep them at a safe distance, which is a great one. He liked the Umbra Hulk's idea. He thought the reason that it's so well loved for computer games is thanks to Black Isles. Running into those things made for some nasty, challenging encounters. Let's see. He's always liked the different monsters had different save types. Cashers are strong-willed, but not too quick and physically weak. Big dumb meat chills are tough, but not very strong-willed or nimble, and so on and so forth. And B. Wilhelm commented, so DC casters should stay out of the new content. Okay, thanks for the warning. I just kind of want to we kind of talked about this a little bit before. But I just want to say that it's not what we're saying. Just DC casters might have to work a little harder in some content compared to other content. like I said before, be a little more creative about how you're using your DC caster, and I think you should be able to do fine. Pick your targets well, as well, would be a good choice.
I have to admit, I have not run Epic Elite yet on the new adventure pack, but I have been doing quite a bit of heroic elite farming, and my cleric, who is necrospect, for slay living. I don't have destruction yet, so it's just really at this point slay living, has been able to proc pretty regularly in there. So
I haven't run a DC caster per se. I was able to. And this is the thing with DC casting. There are spells that don't have saves. So my sorcerer on Epic Elite was using Power Word Kill on the Tieflings freely. He didn't run into any spell power or spell resistance problems with the Tieflings. I was kind of choosing my targets wisely. On hard, I was seeing people get holds. Hard and normal, I was seeing people land holds. I didn't. It's not that I didn't see it in Epic Elite working. More from the standpoint, the times that I've run Epic Elite, we didn't really have a DC caster. So you can take from that what you will. The survey question for the week was, what would be the best lineup of quest raids and slayers to do dragon runs? The question was like, what if I wanted to just find dragons, or what quest? But I kind of paraphrased the question to, where can you find dragons? Jerry, where can you find dragons?
Oh gosh, you're putting me on the spot here. Misery's Peak, although you don't fight it, but Misery's Peak, Mired in Kobolds, Vault of Night, Evenings, or the King's Forest. I
would point you towards Giant Hold.
I don't drink the water.
Particularly Epic Giant Hold has a lot of dragons running around.
Hold.
Stormhorns has some dragons. If you're thinking about the Epic Explorer areas, the big areas tend to have a dragon. At least one dragon.
Temple of Elemental Evil's got one.
Mm-hmm. There's lots of dragons, but if you really want to go find dragons, Epic Giant Hold, some of the Tor obviously has some dragons, and the Explorer area has a lot of dragons out there as well. Also, DDO Wiki, search for dragons. It will tell you where all the named ones are.
Oh yeah. Also, you just got me going here. The one in Zawabi's Refuge. Or not Zawabi's Refuge, but
Reaver's Refuge.
Reaver's Refuge. There's that one. What is
Prey on the Hunter.
Yeah, Prey on the Hunter. Man, there's a bunch of dragons in this game now.
There are a bunch of dragons in this game.
Yep.
So with that, do you want to give a shout out to some streams and stuff that's coming up?
Yeah. Actually, right now, as we speak, over on twitch.tv/DDOstream, we have our brand new show called Death by Dwarf. It's with a dwarven player named Avaldur, and that'll be every Sunday starting at noon Eastern. So that's a brand new show to DDO Stream, so hopefully you guys will dig that. Archives will be going up early next weekish. Otherwise, you can find our whole schedule on twitch.tv/DDOstream. We have shows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and currently not on Saturday. But if you'd like to stream on Saturday, let me know, because and if you want to stream on other times as well, that's not when someone else is streaming, I'd be pretty much totally cool with you going in. So let me know if you're interested in that. So those are the main streams right now. I know, this next Wednesday we'll be back on Caneth for round 2. Probably more Trials of the Archon stuff, I would assume. Otherwise, we're working on a patch, I think, for the next couple... I don't know when it's going to be out. Within a couple weeks-ish. And then if we're hard at work underway now on Update 28. I know people have been asking me, hey, what is Update 28? I actually just talked to Severlin on Friday and said, hey, I think we really need to get on the forums and say what's coming in Update 28. And it was like, yeah, you're right. I think I'll have to set aside some time to do that. So expect that fairly soon. Maybe even as soon as end of next week.
See, it was said that you guys were aiming for 4 updates this year and 20...
29 is going to be here too. So
right, okay, that's what I was
really
kind of getting to.
Right.
So
yeah.
Because 26 and 27 were originally going to be 1, and then it was split into 2. So this is there'll be 2 more updates we're expecting 2 more updates this year.
Yeah, there will be 2 more updates this year. We'll be having one, along with our usual patches and stuff. We'll have one in the fall and then one a little bit before the holidays.
Awesome. So thanks, Jerry, for joining me and talking Helms. And thanks for listening to the show. And thanks to all the guests that we get to have on the show that contribute to DDOCast. Really appreciate all their help. Thanks to Turbine and Wizards, particularly for the support for the scavenger hunt. We got a lot of points to give away for that, and that was awesome. Very well appreciated. So thanks particularly to Jerry and Tolero for making that happen. And thanks to Cyberbears for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, our calendar, previous show swag, and other fun stuff. If you want to be part of the show or just say hi, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment, anything we were talking about today or other things. If there's a topic that you want to hear us talk about, please. I'm kind of actually starting to run out of ideas on topics. And I know I'll probably end up repeating some topics eventually, but if there's something you want to hear us talk about or debate about, send me a comment. Everywhere you can leave a comment, tweet, email, any of that kind of stuff. Let us know. And also follow us on social media at DDOcast on Twitter, and follow us for latest cast updates. There's also a Facebook page, Google Plus page, but Twitter's kind of the one that I generally would say if you're going to follow one, follow that one. The closing tip for the week comes from Wolfhound. Join or create a static group. It could be a great way to enjoy the game and do something different. With that, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to try out Update 27.
Have fun, everyone. See you.